around like my freshman or sophomore year, my mom, she was at work for security and she had got her nose bit off by a dog. And so she just came home one day with the wound, and I'm like, why didn't you tell me? She's like, I didn't want to worry you. And so from then on, it was kind of just me taking care of her. Since my brother was deployed and my other brother was in high school, it was kind of just me being a primary caregiver. And, you know, from her getting her nose off, she had a case and she won and she got money from that. But after a while, the money ran out and she didn't want to work again. So we ended up getting evicted and we ended up being homeless. And I ended up having to stay with a friend while she was staying in my brother's car. And so it was kind of hard just navigating through that because it's like I'm staying in a room with another person. I'm adapting to someone else's living habits while trying to go to school at the same time and trying to figure out what I can control in my life. Because I kind of like went through a depression at that point because it felt like I had no control over anything that was going on in my life, and it just gets suffocating, especially trying to stay strong for my mom because it's like every time I saw her, I just wanted to cry because it was just a reminder of what I was going through, and there was no way around it. Like everything I did was just a reminder, like, damn, I'm not with my mom anymore. Like, I really have no control over this. I just gotta let life play its course. We actually recently just got out of this. It feels like it could all just be taken away at once. Because once you have something taken away from you, it sticks with you forever, I feel like. So when I was younger, I say about 6 years old, my mom, she had this boyfriend and he was kind of living with us. And I'd say they were together for about 6 years. And throughout those 6 years, he was abusive. I feel like as a child, what you see, that's always engraved in your mind. And so when you sit here and you grow up to see like a man being aggressive, that aggression can either go onto you or you learn what you don't want in life. And I recognize that that's not something I want in life. Like, I can never take advice from someone who's not in a place where I don't want to be. So I kind of just took it as that and grew up trying to give other people advice, making sure they didn't go through the same things that I had to go through. Chicago is so downplayed. Like, it's such a beautiful city when you take away like all of the bad stereotypes, because everywhere has bad places. I feel like Chicago is just as normal as any other city. But when you sit around and you can truly appreciate like the architecture of Chicago, I think it's beautiful. Because when I take the Brown Line here and it crosses the bridge and you get to see a view of the water and all the buildings. And it's just such a beautiful city, especially when you see events like the sea lights and stuff. It's just so beautiful being here, and it's like an experience you can't really get anywhere else. Hopefully, I see myself in college. All right, I got a lot of years of schooling that I want to do, cause I want to be a cardiac surgeon. So
You want to be a cardiac surgeon? That's cool. How'd you decide that?
Well, I feel like as I was younger, I've always wanted to be a doctor because every time I went to the hospital, I noticed how they just sit and they help people. And I feel like that's really admirable to be able to sit here and help a person. And so I wanted to do that, but I also want to be in the line of surgery because I feel like you have to be really strategic to go into surgery. And I'm pretty well with my hands and my brain, so I feel like I can make it happen. I feel like growing up in the ghetto, it's like a connection with everyone because we're all at an understanding, like, we're all in the same place, kind of struggling. Even though it's dangerous, we're all just trying to live to survive. Up north, this is terrible. They don't know how to drive. They don't, they're so bougie, and it just like, I actually hated there more than I hated like at Hyde Park or in the ghetto, because there's just no sense of community. It's just like a competition. I say I've had a lot of sad moments in my life, to be honest. It feels like when I am happy, it's kind of like a blur because it feels like a constant process of just going through something, getting over it, experiencing that happiness that comes afterwards. But then it's just like the universe always balances itself out at some point. So it's kind of just a constant cycle of just repetition over and over again. I feel like being homeless, that really hit like a point for me because even throughout my childhood, like since my mom was in the relationship she was in, sometimes we would have to go to shelters and stuff, and we'd just be like out in the streets asking for money. It felt terrible, to be honest, because it honestly felt like a humiliation ritual. Like you're down to a point where you have nothing, so you have to ask other people for something, and they're sitting here and they're judging you and they're making assumptions about your situation and they have no idea what's going on. And it's like, as a kid, there's only so much you can do. And so you're sitting there just on the street stuck, like it's actually so terrifying also because anything can happen. Like there's so many creeps out here and stuff like that. So you just have to be careful. And it kind of just dug me in a hole that made me feel like I had no control over anything going on in my life. And since I feel like that a lot, I feel like most of the time I'm just out of it, like stuck in a state of derealization because it just feels like my life isn't my own sometimes. If I could go back and tell myself quarantine, it would probably just be that, like, I know everything that you're going through feels so permanent and like you will never move forward from it, but like you'll always get through it no matter what. Like I felt so stuck every single time I went through something and it just felt like hell. Like I would never get out of it, but I always did. And I feel like that's kind of a comfort for myself because it's like no matter how trapped I feel, I know that I'm always gonna get out of it somehow.